This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, our music director, Alain Trudel, principal second violin, and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue, and we have the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny. It is a full house today. It's nice to have everybody here as our season is starting to draw to a close, and we're looking ahead to what's going on next season. And today we're going to talk about something that I've never talked about before. This is such a fascinating, interesting concept that you all are bringing to Toledo audiences, and that is Maria Callas, Callas in concert. I know tickets have just gone on sale for this event, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet in Symphony Lab. So I wanted to take the opportunity to really kind of, dig beneath the surface and let people know what it is that they have in store for them. I want to say, first of all, Callas in Concert is happening at the Stranahan Theater September 10th, 2019. It's at 8 o'clock p.m. As I mentioned, tickets are on sale. You can get them at 419-246-8000 or ToledoSymphony.com. Callas in Concert, obviously Maria Callas, who wants to take the lead and give us an introduction into what this concert is all about. Go ahead, Zach.
So I'm very excited to think about this idea that Maria Callas is singing in Toledo, and that's especially impressive given that she's the greatest opera singer of the 20th century, and she's been dead since 1977. So I should mention at the beginning here, this is a co-production with the Stranahan Theater, and they will be celebrating their 50th anniversary in the fall. So we're very excited to partner with them on this. They wanted to do a project that would recognize the symphony, who was one of the original performers, if not the original performer at the Stranahan 50 years ago, I think with the performance of Beethoven's Ninth.
Yeah.
And also show the best technological capabilities of the theater. And when you look around, there probably aren't that many programs that can do that outside of some of the movie presentations we've done. But this Maria Callas concept came up about a year ago, and we've been talking with the Stranahan about it. They're very excited about the idea. Opera is a very celebratory genre, and it fits with that anniversary very nicely.
Yeah, well, you did the Star Wars concert at the Huntington Center not too long ago, and that was remarkable in that it married, film with the music happening there, and it was such a remarkable experience. I can't help but think that this experience with bringing Callas back from the dead is going to be sort of along those lines. It's an interesting performance concept. She is a hologram, right? And when I hear that word, I think of Star Trek and the holograms
or
on
CNN elections.
Yeah, okay. Something like that. They're all related. But let's talk a little bit about the technical aspects of this concert, because you're bringing Maria Callas. I've seen a video of it. You can find a video if you go looking online. You can see a video of an actual concert of her singing, and she does remarkable things that you can't do in nature, but she can do because she's a hologram.
Well, and you can go to the Toledo Symphony website, go to the performance listing for Maria Callas, and there's a link to a YouTube video of what you're describing.
Yeah.
It's the card aria from Carmen, and it shows the quality of the hologram. This isn't sort of a flickery hologram of Princess Leia asking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is
although that would be cool too.
This is a full-size hologram, and it looks incredible. And it's the product of a company called Base Hologram, and they've been working on this technology for a very long time.
What I've seen of the video, it's obvious that the people who created the hologram and married the technology with the artist really knew their stuff when it came to Maria Callas, because they've got her inflections right. They've got the way that she carries herself and moves and communicates with the conductor as well, which I thought was remarkable.
And it's not an animation of Maria Callas. This is actual footage from a recital.
1959 in Hamburg, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of, they take that as kind of the two-dimensional template and then are able to use that technology to really create the experience that you're seeing the three-dimensional person come back from the dead.
Yeah. Now, this company, Base Hologram, they've done other singers, right, that they've sort of resurrected
They have
in the past.
A Roy Orbison
show, and I think they're working on an Amy Winehouse show right now.
Yeah, wow. Well, I read a review of this technology when it first came out. There was a preview of Callas in concert, and Anthony Tomasini wrote about it in the New York Times. And, I mean, he sort of had mixed feelings about it because there's something to be said for hearing somebody in the flesh. But then again, we're talking about Maria Callas. It's impossible to experience that artistry in the flesh. This is the next best thing. And he was saying, it works for what it is. And he also pointed out that thing about the hologram and her doing the cards in the air, which, you can see in that video on the website. She throws the gypsies cards up in the air in Carmen, and they hover there over her for a minute, right? And Anthony Tomasini talking about that in the New York Times, saying, hey, if you're going to be a hologram, you're going to do this, don't just recreate the concert, take advantage of the technology.
And I think the reason they do that moment where they freeze the cards and then they gently let them flicker down to the stage, it's a remarkable effect, and I hope people check it out on the website. I think it's there because we have to be reminded that it's not real. Yeah. So they have to play with something like gravity. And the amazing thing is, as the cards are hanging suspended in the air and then they start to trickle down slowly, you can still see Maria Callas's red scarf kind of moving. Yeah. So it's not like they just hit pause. It's some things are moving and some things aren't. It's magical.
Mm-hmm. The attention to detail is just remarkable. Now, tell us how this came to be. I mean, how did Callas in Concert get on your radar, and how did it end up coming to Toledo?
Well, we've been talking with the Stranahan about a way to celebrate their 50th anniversary, and they get approached by all sorts of different productions. We get approached by all sorts of different managers, and Steve Hyman, their executive director, came to us about 18 months ago, trying to think of something that we could do. We had heard about the Callas in Concert from an agent that we work a lot with, who then no longer supported the show. Steve had heard about it as well and was very interested in pursuing it. But he can't do it just as a theater; he needs an orchestra. Yeah. So it ended up being just a really great opportunity to do this, and to do it at the beginning of their season aligns with their anniversary. To do it at the beginning of our season really kicks things off nicely, and I think it's a strong start.
It's just a fascinating idea. You think of all the great singers of the past and who you would like to see. I basically have two on that list. That would be Enrico Caruso and Callas, right? I mean, that is somebody. And somebody with a voice who, you either love it or you hate it. There's that Callas sound. And I know, and you can talk a little bit about, Callas as a singer and the sound of the voice. But before we do that, I wonder if we can take a minute and actually listen to Callas herself. I want to play a recording of her singing Casta Diva, which is the big aria from the opera Norma, one of her signature roles. And this is done under the baton of her mentor, Tullio Serafin, a recording. I'm not quite sure when she made this recording, but I think she was pretty well in her prime. We're going to listen to this. We'll have to truncate this for the podcast version of it, but anybody can find this online or on YouTube. Pretty remarkable when you just listen to it that way and are able to focus on the sound that she did, that aria Casta Diva, which translates to chaste goddess, right? So every time you're calling somebody a diva, you're actually calling them a goddess.
That's what I always mean.
Yeah, exactly. Your Italian lesson for the day. That was performed under the baton of her mentor, the great Italian conductor Tullio Serafin, who had a nickname for her. He called her una grande vocaccia, which means a great rough voice or a great ugly voice. and it's interesting. It speaks a little bit to the sound, that Callas sound. Some of her vowels are in an interesting position, and she has this interesting timbre. But again, that's what makes her stand out. That's what makes her instantly recognizable. Elaine, you've conducted so many operas. Do you remember like your introduction to Maria Callas? So the first time that you heard her singing?
Actually, it was that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
just now.
Yeah, probably, but no, not just now. No, but this recording, probably her best recording of anything. This is Callas in her prime, yes, but also fantastic. What she has that's very special for me is a total dedication to the artistry, total dedication to the role that she's doing. The thing we have with singers often is that you have very talented singers that have, I don't know, maybe for sometimes a superstition of not going so deep into what they have to do because they think they're going to lose some spontaneity or something, or they're going to lose a bit of their talent. I don't know what it is, but it happens very often. And then you have the singers that are a little bit marginal. Can I say, can you say that? Is that something? They're not the standard voice that you would. Think of
a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, like Callas. But some of them, I don't know. It's such dedication. When you listen to her, and what's for me is very important is how she lives the silence and the music. When she takes a breath, it's not a technical breath. It has to be, of course, but like especially in this is a perfect excerpt for people to have an introduction to Callas, to our artistry. Is that there's a calmness, and it's not. It's calmness and fatality. You listen to it, and there's something that's very troubling, and that's very at the same time static in the sense that it's not. There's something the fatality. That's the only word I can think of. That will happen. That's very dramatic, and that's opera in a nutshell, right?
Yeah. A great sense of of fate.
Going
exactly. On her voice.
I've always said that. Her passion is ferocious, and her vulnerability, which might be what you're reaching for, but her vulnerability is heartbreaking.
Yeah,
and it doesn't work everywhere, but she makes it work anywhere.
Well, there's something to be said just listening to her voice and her interpretation of that role and the pathos that she brings to it through her sound that is on par with like the greatest actors of the theater and the screen, where you have the sense of security in knowing that, oh, this is what she's doing. She knows 100% what she's doing with that voice. And the technique is there, and she's doing exactly what she means to do. She's taking you along for the ride with her.
That's, let me continue on that. Is that some of the greatest singers, talking about taking for a ride, is that sometimes they drive us a little crazy, conductors, because, but they're always going somewhere. And I would rather conduct somebody makes everybody, you're on your toes. You say, oh my God, is it ever going to end, that phrase? Or is there something? But at the same time, if you buy into it, you have to buy into it as much as they buy into it. And then it's easy. They can be the most complicated singers to conduct, or it can actually be quite simple. Yeah. There's a few singers that I work with kind of regularly that other of my colleagues, they say, oh, you don't want to work with that person. My God, it's impossible to follow. It's impossible if you're thinking of what you want to do or what should be the standard of something. But, everybody can do a standard version of something. Yeah. And if somebody takes it a step forward and then a lot of steps forward, and until you're right on the edge of something, which is where she lived, on the edge of, it's either sublime or the abyss, and you're always, you're talking about fragility, and it's always on the edge of that. When you work with performers like that, then it's not always, perfect, but it's always meaningful, and there's always something special happening.
It's art. In some ways, it's much more artistically, full than the other thing.
Absolutely.
Felicia.
When I was listening to the recording just now, this story that was kind of circulating social media, I think a couple of years ago, kind of popped into my head, and I think it's fitting. It was a story of a dad who had saved all these. I'm probably going to get choked up talking about this.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
This dad saving all these voicemails from his little girl, and then she passed away. And he lost all the voicemails somehow because of just technology. I don't know, something happened, and he tried to get that back. And to me, when Callas passed away, the world mourned her loss. Yeah. And having this opportunity to bring her back and to create new memories is something that's just so remarkable. I'm going to cry.
But Callas was somebody who was in the public consciousness in a way that very few opera singers are today. And that was due not only to her singing, but also, her affair with Aristotle Onassis and the relationship there with Jackie O coming into the picture. And there's a lot of stuff that didn't even necessarily portray who she was, but she became like a media celebrity, back in the day. And I actually have a question or two about that coming up in my little Callas quiz. Go ahead, Zach.
I just want to say that, I think Felicia's emotional reaction is right, is that there's a way that if you go out and you say they're going to make a hologram of Maria Callas and they're going to do a concert, that sounds to some that somehow we're capitalizing on somebody's image, or we're trying to just broadcast something again. And
I was a skeptic at first.
You were a skeptic, yeah. But then you see how beautifully it's done and how much of her personality they've been able to maintain through video. And it's in some ways the most loving tribute that you can make to somebody who did so much for music and moved so many people. And if you read any of the reviews, of which there have been a few now, of this performance elsewhere, you have hardened music critics
who go in there with the
being skeptical,
very skeptical.
But they admit to crying by the end of this, and looking around the audience at people who are begging for an encore. From what? Yeah, from
and if you clap enough, she will do an encore.
But I mean,
this whole thing is an encore.
But it is, it is an encore.
Good one.
Well played. But it just shows that at some point, I mean, and maybe it's appropriate for opera, which is rooted in such theater, where you suspend your disbelief. But as you're watching this, you can't help but believe that it is real, and you're applauding, desiring an encore. Yeah.
Very important point you're making, that it's not exploitive in any way. It's very much in the mold of a tribute, and probably, especially here in Toledo, introducing a lot of people to Maria Callas and her artistry that were not familiar with it. I mean, it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see an artist like this.
And it could be a really good gateway to the art form, too. For example, I know she'll be performing an aria from Macbeth, and just a few weeks later, in early October, Toledo Opera will be presenting all of Verdi's Macbeth. So there could be a really great linkage there from what we're doing to seeing live opera at the Valentine.
Fantastic. Well, in the amount of time that we have left, I want to get in my little Callas quiz, because this also has to deal with aspects of Maria Callas and her artistry in her life that folks may not know about. I do have a little music I'm going to bring up here. Elaine will be familiar with this. Elaine having just conducted Carmen.
This is your cast recording, right?
Yeah. This is the holographic version of the habanera, right? Okay, very quickly. First question. What city was Maria Callas born in? Was it Athens, New York, or Columbus, Ohio? Athens?
I would say Athens.
Not Athens. Any other guesses?
I'll say New York.
Good one. Born in New York, but when she was young, her parents separated. She went with her mom back to Greece, right? Okay, she sang her very first opera at age 15, portraying a woman scorned. And it's a role that she never actually sang on stage in her career. Oh, I shouldn't have said that now, because you'll get it, but was it Santuzza in Cavalleria Rusticana? Was it Donna Elvira in Don Giovanni? Or was it Norma in Norma? Which of those? Did she sing at age 15 and get, incredible reviews?
I'm going to say Donna Elvira. I don't think I've heard her sing. Really?
No. And we know it wasn't Norma, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Because you just did it, yeah.
yeah, this is a role that she only recorded,
Wow.
which leaves one. Anybody remember what it was?
Santuzza.
Santuzza.
But that's so
Yes.
funny. I think because of the recording that I couldn't remember a Donna Elvira from
Yeah.
Maria Callas.
Now, Maria Callas, like many singers, had nicknames. You know, you think of Joan Sutherland in La Stupenda.
Yeah.
Callas was called La Divina. She was also, when she was young, they used to call her the God-Given when she was back in Greece. But what was her other nickname? You have a choice here. 3 of them, all in Italian. Was it La Vespa, the Wasp? Was it La Tigressa, the Tigress? Or was it La Sirena, the Siren? Siren is in, like, Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Which of those was also a nickname for her?
She seems like a tiger, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
La
Nicely done.
Tigressa. Yeah, the Tigress. Speaking to her supposedly, temperamental self. Okay, a turning point in her career was while she was at La Fenice Opera in Venice. She was singing Brunhilde, actually,
Really?
believe it or not. And while she was singing Brunhilde, another soprano got sick. She was asked to learn this role in 6 days and perform it alongside Brunhilde, which she did, and it set her off in the whole bel canto phase of her career. So you're going to tell me what the role was. Was it Lucia in Lucia di Lammermoor? Was it Norma in Norma? Or was it Elvira in I Puritani by Bellini, who also wrote Norma? This is just going to be a guess, I assume.
I think
Lucia?
Lucia? No, close. No, this is her first big bel canto role.
Close how? Close to the other two? It's either A, B, or C. They have
Exactly.
to be close.
There were 3 of them.
They're all
Yeah.
bel canto roles.
It's a
They're
triangle. Take a shot.
Bellini.
Well, the other 2 are by
nice, nice.
it was Elvira
Elvira, all right.
in I Puritani. Where did she make her American debut? Was it 1954? Was it in Chicago, New York, or San Francisco?
I think it was San Francisco.
No.
I think it was Chicago.
Oh, we can edit that to make it sound like you got the first answer right. Yeah.
But
That
we
was in
won't.
Chicago. It was
No,
actually
don't do that.
That's a big deal for Chicago because it was the first season of Chicago Lyric Opera, which they called something else at the time. But it was their first season. They brought over Maria Callas. She sang Norma. And really only one other soprano tried to sing Norma, I think in the 50s, a soprano whose name I can't even remember. And then June Anderson did it again in the 1990s.
Wow.
And I was singing at Lyric Opera Chicago then, and I had to sing in the chorus for that show, so I was actually in that production of Norma. And I remember at rehearsals, June Anderson would always do Maria Callas impersonations. Because, I mean, the ghost of Callas was like hovering over the whole production. Remarkable
You're 2 degrees
production.
separated from Maria Callas.
Exactly. Okay. When Maria Callas debuted in New York, Time magazine made a big deal out of her feud with, was it Renata Scotto, was it Renata Tebaldi, or was it Elizabeth Schwarzkopf? Which one of those did she have an infamous feud?
I want to say it was
with?
Tebaldi, wasn't it?
It was Tebaldi. Exactly. Although evidently Time magazine made like a
More
big
of
deal
it than
out
it
of
was.
it. Yeah. So this leads me to segue into the final 4 questions here, which are who said it, Callas or Tebaldi? These are quotes. And you tell me if it was Maria Callas who said this or Renata Tebaldi. Here's the first one. I was in love many times. This is very good for a woman. Was that Renata Tebaldi or Maria Callas?
I would say Tebaldi.
Okay, Zach, good. I prepare myself for rehearsals like I would for marriage. Who said that, Callas or Tebaldi?
Callas.
Good. Wow, you guys are good at this. Okay. I will always be as difficult as necessary to achieve the best. You should be able to
Callas.
think of that.
Callas, yeah.
Everyone's just like,
Yeah.
That's unanimous.
A family. I have a huge international family. That's all I need. Who said that?
Tebaldi.
Wow, look at that. 4 for 4.
You guys are breezing
Nice.
right through this. Okay, here's the final quote. An opera begins long before the curtain goes up and ends long after it has come down. It starts in my imagination, it becomes my life, and it stays part of my life long after I've left the opera house. who said that. That's a great quote.
It's a great quote.
Brad Cresswell.
I did. I just said it. I was, reading somebody else's words, but I did say it.
Yeah.
No, who would that be? Callas or Tibaldi?
That's
Come on, guys. Who are we
Callas.
talking about
It's gotta
today?
be
Be Callas, yeah. You have to have
Yes,
It's a great
Maria Callas. Indeed. Anything else that we want to say before we turn it over?
quote. People ask how it works, and I'd love to peek behind the curtain just a little bit and look at the technological preparations for this show, because it goes back to this old 1890s effect where they would create the sense that a ghost was on stage in like old theatrical productions, and it's called Pepper's Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a series.
They have that
of,
at Imagination Station.
They do.
A little
They do.
dog in
Yeah.
a doghouse.
That's
yeah.
right. So it's the same thing. So there's a projector that's basically under the stage, projecting onto a mirror, which then reflects up onto a scrim on the stage, so that it looks like Maria Callas is standing front and center, and it allows effects to happen, like her image then reflects on the stage as it would if it were
wondered
real.
how that was done when I saw the video of it.
Because if you just broadcast from a projector at the back of the hall, you wouldn't get that effect.
Yeah.
And it also creates a sense of reality, which is outstanding because you can do more with that. And for those who don't understand how this works, if you've ever seen a teleprompter, you have something that is on a television down at the floor, backwards or upside down, and then it reflects on an angled surface on the teleprompter that a politician or a speaker might use, and they can see it, but people on the other side can't. So it's exactly that technology that it will be Maria Callas.
But reverse, so that we can see it.
I think, yes. So we will be the reader in that scenario.
Yeah.
But it's just incredible what they've been able to do.
But what do you see, Merwin, when you're on the other side of the fence, as it were? I mean, you're sitting in the orchestra. Can you see her like in reverse, or do you know?
We're looking at music.
Yeah. Good answer.
And a conductor.
And a conductor, I was just going to say.
Good answer for that one. So it sounds like a fascinating technological accomplishment. I mean, it really, gives Disney World a run for its money. Thinking of the haunted house, things like that.
I think when you've had the chance to listen to the recording and be captivated by the recording, it's almost humbling to realize that, that's only half of her artistry, because she was just a dramatic embodiment of every character.
Yeah.
And so when you were talking about how there were two singers that you really wanted to see, she is as incredibly important to see visually as she is to hear.
Right.
And I think there's something that, there are other voices that maybe you don't feel the need to attempt to see, but you really you really want to be able to watch her embody a character and to shift the characters from aria to aria. It's pretty impressive.
And I think because her voice was so internalized, and you can hear that when you listen to it, but seeing it is kind of startling to see that voice coming out of a real person and to see her emoting and acting in such a way. They've done it in such a way that it seems perfectly natural. It seems choreographed in the same way that her voice is choreographed that we talked about before. Yeah. So it's just a remarkable experience.
There are points when she reaches for a note, like she's trying to get her voice up to where she wants it to go. And you can see that. I mean, it's not a surprise that people still buy DVDs of operas that were recorded in the 50s with her because they want to watch it.
Yeah. And also, the flip side of that, the fact that Callas has sort of been picked apart and every single little thing that she ever recorded has been released to the public. I'm sure she would be appalled to know that all of those recordings and those bootleg recordings where she wasn't necessarily singing at her best, especially toward the end of her career when she was still going on tour, with Giuseppe Di Stefano, and they were not at their best. But it's a fantastic representation of her at the height of her powers, and sort of sets the record straight, right? Yeah. To see this event in concert.
And I should say the whole production is directed by a famous opera director named Stephen Wadsworth, who also created the play Masterclass about Maria Callas.
Yeah, I know he directed Masterclass. Terrence McNally.
That's
play.
right. Terrence McNally created it. He directed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Stephen Wadsworth, really well respected. He's brought a lot of credibility to this whole project.
It's true.
Well, that's about all the time that we have. The concert, again, is happening in September. It's September 10th at 8 o'clock p.m. This is at the Stranahan Theater, celebrating their 50th anniversary, a co-production with Toledo Symphony. Maria Callas in concert. Tickets on sale at 419-246-8000 or ToledoSymphony.com. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Sue, Elaine Trudell, and Felicia Canny. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.